What's up, everybody? It's your boy Trippy, and man, let's just go ahead and jump right into this, man. I'm just as pissed off as you guys, trust me, but I'm gonna try and be as unbiased as I can in this video and give an accurate assessment of Jake Paul's skills. Jake Paul just knocked out Ben Askren in the first round of their boxing match. So, I'm gonna go ahead and say this. That punch that Jake Paul landed would have knocked down a freaking heavyweight. That was a big punch because he threw his entire upper body into it. And the shot right before that, before the knockout, that kind of set him up into it, that big overhand right, which is his favorite punch. I mean, that's that guy's favorite punch, is that freaking overhand right, and Ben essentially walked into it. No, he didn't walk into it. Ben froze and let Jake Paul hit him pretty much. Jake Paul threw the dummy, that left hand, which was really just to gauge the distance, and then launched that massive right hand that sent Ben Askren's face first to the canvas. I mean, he face planted into the canvas, man. That's extremely disappointing. Is it embarrassing? You know, Jake Paul just proved that he's a better technical boxer than Ben Askren, which we all knew. Ben Askren is a grappler, a retired MMA fighter. Jake Paul was supposed to win this fight. He was supposed to win this fight. The fact that he knocked him out was a little shocking because I had a little more faith in Ben Askren's chin. But man, he didn't move his head. He did not move his head. I didn't think that Jake Paul was going to land those type of big punches. I thought Ben would be a lot more sharp than that. He reacted so slow to everything. Jake threw a jab kind of to clear distance. And Ben just kind of, it didn't land like a severe impact on Ben, but it touched him. It touched him, which in the MMA cage wouldn't have touched him. It just shown Jake Paul was throwing a bunch of stuff. Damn near everything Jake Paul threw landed. It was a big body punch that really showed me that Jake may have evolved a little bit. He threw a body punch, and it was a solid smack, man. A solid smack. But it was one sequence in the fight that pissed me off. And it was when Ben Askren was hunting down Jake Paul. It was kind of like Ben Askren was starting to plod forward and try to walk down Jake Paul. Jake Paul then tried to move away from Ben Askren. And on his way of moving away from Ben Askren, he crossed his feet, ducked his head, and threw a big looping right overhand that missed. It missed badly, and that pissed me off due to the fact that we were all right in Ben's chances of winning. Pressure Jake Paul and make him throw panicky shots just like that, because that's what that was. That was a get away from me, I'm gonna try and knock you out immediately type punch. That's what it was. He wanted to throw something big and hit Ben and catch him coming in and ultimately put him down. But it didn't land. It missed. And what made me mad is that Ben ducked under it because of his wrestling tendencies, his freaking instincts. In the MMA cage, Ben's instincts, whenever he sees a big looping shot like that, is to duck his head and grab you. He didn't freaking do that. But where he did try to clinch I believe in the first few seconds, he tried to clinch with Jake Paul, and the ref broke it up. The ref broke it up fast. Ben was still moving, because in boxing, if you continue to punch while in the clinch, if you continue to work, you're okay. They won't separate you. It's once you guys start hugging and you guys aren't really throwing anything back, that's whenever they stop at the clinch. But they pulled them apart quick, and you know, that's when reality started to set in. That's when I knew for sure Ben Askren was going to lose his fight. It was his slow-ass reflexes, his non-existent head movement, and it just seems like he was just gone. It just seems like Ben Askren wasn't the high-level Ben Askren that was competing against Robbie Lawler. It just wasn't. And I thought we were going to see that Ben Askren. I thought he was going to work his way back into shape and come in there and fight Jake Paul, but the guy was too heavy. I mean, I don't even think he's naturally that much, maybe. And it's too heavy, and his instincts were just not there. His reaction time was not there. And whenever you see a fighter slow down in the octagon, slow down in the cage, we all know what goes first. It's his reaction timing. It's whenever you start getting hit by shots you may have not been hit with before, and then their ability to take a shot. I believe both of those. Well, that punch, like I said, would have knocked down anybody, but Ben got knocked down. And he got back up, yeah, but he got back up, wobbled into the ropes, and then bounced back into the referee. And so Ben Askren was like, yeah, I'm good. He may have been good. There was 48 seconds left in the round, I believe. He may have been good to continue fighting, but I believe that Jake Paul was on his way to winning this fight because Ben couldn't take a big shot off of him. Not only that, Ben Askren also just didn't have the head movement and the reaction time to get out of the way of a big shot by Jake Paul. But Jake Paul knocked out a retired wrestler. So the big question is, did I think the fight should have been stopped? Honestly, Ben was ready to go back and fight, but I think he just would have, the same thing would have repeated itself in the second round, and then they would have stopped it. Probably earlier, honestly. But the other thing is, do we give Jake Paul credit? Is he legit? No. And that is my unbiased answer. No, he is not legit. He's not a legit fighter. I'm sorry. Because those sequences that we thought would get him in trouble with Ben Askren were there. Whenever he's moving back, throwing big looping punches and throwing everything into each shot and trying to knock Ben Askren out, ultimately outworking Ben Askren early and by Ben basically doing a whole bunch of nothing. Ben didn't pressure that much, but I kind of saw that. I kind of saw like he was going to let Jake Paul play around and gas himself out. I saw him doing that. Jake was working and he was doing a little too much, a little more calm than I thought, but he was throwing everything into his shot, man. He was on his way. He was on his way. But I can't give him full credit because those tendencies and the fact that Ben Askren is a retired wrestler, you guys, a retired wrestler. That's it. That's all he is. You can't, and is known as possibly the worst striker in UFC history. How can you give a guy full credit? How can you give a guy full credit for knocking out a guy who is known as the worst striker in the UFC and is by trade a wrestler with zero professional boxing record? He has no professional boxing history. We can't give him full credit on that. We still can't. I'll just throw him in the list of all the other bums that Jake Paul fought. Ben Askren is not a bum in terms of MMA, but in boxing, he is an absolute bum. A punching bag with legs. He described those guys as it. Ben Askren did land a good shot where Jake Paul overcommitted with a big looping punch, and Ben Askren ducked under and countered him. That actually surprised me. So Ben has worked on his hands. His hands was better than freaking his MMA career. But his reaction timing and his head movement was just gone, man. It just wasn't there. So, yes, we can't give Jake Paul credit for that because he's not facing anybody good. And the tendencies, the things he showed me, the holes in his games that he showed me will give him in big trouble when he fights a guy who knows how to strike. But I'll say this. He has big power. He has big power, and he can knock out anybody with that freaking overhand right, his favorite punch. But I think anybody with better striking than Askren would have seen it coming from a mile away and got out of the way. Ben Askren is 36 years old. Overweight. I wouldn't say he's out of shape, but overweight. Retired. Came off of a hip surgery and is a grappler by trade with zero professional boxing matches, going up against a 24-year-old with 3 boxing. Okay, I'll give it 3 KOs, but been dedicating his life to boxing. Why won't he fight another guy that dedicate his life to boxing? So there's a few things that Jake Paul can go from here. Unfortunately, it's up. He has to fight somebody real now. They have to put somebody real against the cage, or real in there with him now. He can't fight no more bums. And I think what may be next for him, I don't think that it'll be a current UFC fighter because Dana White hates Jake Paul and will not let them get out of their contract to fight Jake Paul. And I don't think that any of these retired guys and these YouTubers, I think they all seen this and probably got cold feet and don't want to do it now. So there's one guy, though. Tyron Woodley, I heard, wants to fight Jake Paul. That is an interesting fight and a hard fight for Jake Paul. But I'm going to drop one more video on him. I know you guys probably don't want to see it, but I'm going to drop one more video on Jake Paul, I promise. That'll be it. That'll be my last video on him. And that's what's next for him in terms of him boxing MMA fighters. And we're going to break down can he beat Tyron Woodley or whoever else that he's called out, you know. But anyway, it's been your boy Trippy signing off. I'm about to go to bed. Oh, stay tuned for my reaction and results to Robert Whittaker versus Kelvin Gastelum too. Stay tuned for that. But it's been your boy Trippy, and I'm out, man.